is up guys, Merganman4 here, and with Doctor Who's 60th anniversary just around the corner, I thought now would be the perfect time to celebrate some of the best this franchise has to offer. Today I'll be continuing with the 10th Doctor. Taking the foundations of Series 1 and bringing Doctor Who to all new heights, Tennant's take on the Doctor is the perfect mix of charming and quirky, brilliant but vain to a fault. But before we see Tennant return as the 14th Doctor in November's 60th specials, let's take a look at my top 10 10th Doctor stories. Number 10, The Girl in the Fireplace.
The link is basically physical and it's still physically here. Which might just mean if I'm lucky. If I'm very, 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 very lucky. Aha!
What?
Lose connection. Need to get a man in. Wish me luck.
No.
Past and future collide, as robots from the 51st century stalk a woman from the 18th. Stephen Moffat has a knack for instantly intriguing premises, and this mixture of sci-fi and historical gives The Girl in the Fireplace a unique flavor. I really like the idea of the time windows. The ability to step through someone's entire life in an instant is both fascinating and depressing. On the one hand, it's great fun looking in on Renette at different points in her life, and the episode comes up with a number of interesting doorways between the two worlds. But on the other hand, without the ability to control which time period they arrive in, it sets the Doctor up for tragedy. Not only does he disappear from Renette's life for large chunks at a time, but having invited her aboard the TARDIS, he leaves for what is, to him, a mere couple minutes. But upon returning, he discovers that she's passed away in his absence. The tragedy of a mismatched time stream. The Girl in the Fireplace also boasts a striking monster in the form of the Clockwork robots. It's a fantastic design, and their purpose is wonderfully gruesome. Having run out of spare parts, they resorted to using the crew to repair their spaceship. It's the perfect kind of cold logic that can make robots so unsettling. As to why they're specifically hunting Madame de Pompadour, it's a mystery that's teased throughout the episode, and I actually love that the Doctor, Rose, and Mickey never discover the answer. But in the final shots before the credits roll, we see the name of the ship, SS Madame de Pompadour. Suddenly it clicks into place. Something so simple causing so much chaos. It's an immensely satisfying ending to an immensely satisfying episode. Number 9. The Stolen Earth and Journey's End.
The man who abhors violence, never carrying a gun. But this is the truth, Doctor. You take ordinary people and you fashion them into weapons. Behold your children of time transformed into murderers. I made the Daleks, Doctor. You made this.
The Stolen Earth and Journey's End is Doctor Who's equivalent of Infinity War. A big old crossover between the parent show and its spin-offs, and even if it isn't the 10th Doctor's true finale, it very much acts the part, complete with regeneration. It's hard to know exactly where to begin with this story, but it gets off to a cracking start when Earth suddenly vanishes, bringing the planet and everyone on it to a whole new part of the universe. The Stolen Earth is a masterclass in tension and setup. For once, the Doctor is genuinely at a loss as to what to do, completely cut off from the action as Earth is subjected to a full-force invasion of the Daleks. I think it's fair to say that the new series' use of the Daleks is inconsistent, but they're superbly realized here. Utterly unstoppable, and seeing the likes of Sarah Jane and Captain Jack giving up all hope as soon as they hear the dreaded exterminate never fails to give me chills. Despite the relatively small roles of characters like Luke, Gwen, and Yanto, and understandably so, this story has a massive guest cast. It's great fun to see them make an appearance from the Sarah Jane adventures in Torchwood. But it's also fun to see pretty much every major character of the RTD years team up here. The 10th Doctor, Donna, Rose, Martha, Jack, Sarah Jane, Jackie, Mickey, Sylvia, Wilf, Francine, Harriet Jones. Wow. Some have bigger roles than others, but it's an incredible achievement to bring all these characters together under a single story and somehow make it work. And to add on that, we don't just get the Daleks, but the return of Davros, reimagined for the 21st century. Julian Bleach puts in a magnificent performance, perfectly capturing the subtleties, but going all out when the script calls for it. A fantastic successor to Terry Malloy, in my opinion. And his commentary on the Doctor, that he takes other people and turns them into weapons, is a fascinating examination of the character. And poor, poor Donna. The Doctor having to wipe her mind of all their travels together, everything she's learnt and experienced, in order to save her life, is a fantastically tragic ending. This is a story that tries to do a lot, and somehow manages to be largely successful. It's not without its flaws, but it's a massively entertaining finale. Number 8, Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead.
Let me do this! If you die here, it'll mean I've never met you. Time can be rewritten. Not those times. Not one line. Don't you dare. It's okay. It's okay. It's not over for you. You'll see me again. You've got all of that to come. You and me. Time and space. You watch us run.
Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead is threefold in its brilliance. A great monster, a great setting, and a great guest cast. Stephen Moffat's contribution to Series 4 introduces us to the Vashta Nerada, a terrifically terrifying concept that asks the question, what if shadows could kill? It's a premise that the story delivers on in spades. There's an ever-present sense of dread as you never know which shadow could be infected, and whilst it's not exactly a base under siege, there's a constant energy as characters are forced to keep moving, relentlessly chased by the shadows and reanimated corpses of their colleagues. I don't know what it is, but there's something about the setting of the library that complements the creepy darkness well. And as a concept, a library that takes up an entire planet is a fascinating one, as is the sudden disappearance of everyone who occupied it. Indeed, throughout the story we get glimpses to another world, one that seems to be connected only through a young girl. It's a great mystery, only heightened once dawn is taken there, and the revelation that it's the planet's computer core doing its best to rescue the library's occupants from the deadly threat makes for a satisfying answer, and unfortunately puts Donna through the ringer as she's forced to confront the fact that the life she's built there is an illusion. As for the guest cast, well, they're all entertaining enough, but the standout is, of course, River Song, a brilliant character who has a long history with the Doctor, except the Doctor hasn't experienced it yet. Alex Kingston is fantastic in the role. Her sadness at realizing the Doctor truly doesn't know her is palpable, and the fact that she trusts him implicitly is a fantastic hook for her future, or should that be her past, appearances, even knowing his real name. The final scene between her and the Doctor, as she sacrifices herself so that he can live on and see the days that she's already experienced, is fantastic, with both Kingston and Tennant turning in some of their best performances. Losing a friend before you've even met them. It's an excellent use of the Doctor being a time traveler, and has only become more rewarding as we've experienced River's further encounters with him. There's no doubt that Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead is an all-around classic. Number 7, Turn Left.
I asked about jobs with the army. They said I wasn't qualified. You were right. You said I should have worked harder at school. I suppose I've always been a disappointment.
Yeah.
If there's one word to describe Turn Left, it's bleak. Offering us a look at an alternative timeline where Donna never met the Doctor, Russell T Davies takes the opportunity to revisit many episodes of the past couple seasons and explore the dire consequences had the Doctor not been involved. And what we get is an incredible 40 minutes of high-stakes emotional drama, all centering around Donna, a woman who struggles to accept that she could ever be capable of making a difference in the world. It's odd, but this almost feels like the most ordinary episode of Doctor Who, for lack of a better word. Extraordinary things happen, but Donna's separated from the action, only ever witnessing it from afar, at least until the climax. But the fallout is the heart of the drama. Starting small, with Donna losing her job, but gradually growing in scale and devastation, with London being destroyed and Donna and her family forced to confront the idea that everyone they knew has died. Donna's family also provides a good variety in responses to these events. Wilf, ever the optimist and trying to make the best of everything, Donna, skeptical but strong-willed, and Sylvia, who's more or less given up all hope. I'm not sure if there's any other scene so simple yet so devastating as Donna trying to talk to her mum, whose only response is to stare blankly into space. Except to agree with the words, "I suppose I've always been a disappointment." Wow. And the later revelation that Britain has become so desperate they've begun sending immigrants to labor camps, and Wilf's devastating reply of, "That's what they called them last time." It's these little moments that stick out in the mind. They aren't vital to the plot, you could remove these scenes and never notice they were missing, but they pack the most powerful punch of all. But Turn Left isn't aimless, it's all building towards Donna setting the timeline right again, with the help of Rose, returning from her parallel world, and her ominous revelation that the stars are going out. It's a fantastic setup to the finale that'll follow, and Donna finally realizing that she can make a difference is heartening. Until we realize that she has to die to do it. She succeeds, but it feels little like victory. And that's Turn Left in a nutshell. A powerful piece of drama, perhaps the most grounded Doctor Who has ever been. It's tragic and depressing, but it's all the better for it. Number 6, Blink.
And that's it, I'm afraid. There's no more from you on the transcript. That's the last I've got. I don't know what stopped you talking, but I can guess. They're coming. The angels are coming for you. But listen, your life could depend on this. Don't blink. Don't even blink. Blink and you're dead. They are fast, faster than you could believe. Don't turn your back. Don't look away, and don't blink. Good luck.
With just 2 words, Stephen Moffat captured the minds of millions and terrified a generation of children. Don't blink. It's hard to overstate just how much of an impact the Weeping Angels have had, and it's all down to Moffat's knack of taking the ordinary and mundane and putting a simple, terrifying twist on it. The idea of a monster that can only attack when you can't see it is brilliant, as is the twist that it won't actually kill you, but send you back in time to live out your days away from anything you ever knew or loved. It's little wonder that the Weeping Angels have become as recognizable as they have, helped massively by the incredible debut that is Blink. It's a very clever use of the Doctor Light format, focusing instead on one-off guest character Sally Sparrow, who's a fun protagonist to follow and whose introduction into the Doctor's world is refreshingly unconventional. I love that, for the most part, the Doctor and Martha only appear through decades-old recordings that have been carefully engineered to reach Sally specifically. With their conversation through time, Sally responding to the recording, and the Doctor responding to a transcript given to him by Sally in her future and his past, is an ingenious use of the time travel aspect of the Angels, and how the Doctor, despite being trapped, is still able to use time to his advantage. Likewise with the brief encounters we have with Detective Billy Shipton, who Sally first meets when she's investigating the Angels, and shortly after meets again as an old man, having been sent back to the 1960s, passing away in the same reign he first met her in. With its incredibly inventive monster and an extremely clever use of time travel, there really isn't any other Doctor Who story quite like Blink. Number 5. The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit.
It's funny, isn't it? The things you make up, the rules. If that thing had said it came from beyond the universe, I'd believe it, but before the universe, impossible. Doesn't fit my rules. Still, that's why I keep travelling. To be proved wrong.
I'll admit, I'm not the biggest fan of Series 2. There's a reason that this list is mostly dominated by stories from Series 3 and 4. But credit where it's due, The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit is really, really good. And so much of that is down to atmosphere. The design of Sanctuary Base 6 is superb, the rusty metal and industrial vibe really enhancing the feeling of being far away from any safety and comfort. Made even more menacing by being trapped on a planet orbiting a black hole, as we see galaxies and civilizations eaten up all around us. Murray Gold's score is also wonderfully evocative, perfectly capturing that feeling of unease and occurrences that are beyond understanding. The possessed Toby standing out completely unprotected on the planet's surface, beckoning to Scooty before she gets sucked out to her death, is one of the show's most hauntingly memorable moments. It helps too that the whole crew is really well characterized and feel like real people. There's a genuine sense of sorrow as they die, since we feel a connection to them, and recognize their connection with one another. There's Scooty's previously mentioned death, but Jefferson's is really well played as well, with him requesting to die by suffocation rather than Ood as he spends his last moments buying the others time. Speaking of, the Ood are a fantastic invention, a slave race that lived to serve, eventually being taken over by the Beast as his foot soldiers. Their striking design and morally dubious purpose make them an extremely memorable inclusion, and it's easy to see why they've been brought back on subsequent occasions. And then there's the Doctor and Rose. Look, I don't really care for their whole romance subplot, but what I do appreciate is their dedication to one another. In a story that challenges their faith and beliefs, the one thing they can rely on is each other. It's quite refreshing to see the Doctor's own understanding of the universe put to the test, and it's a satisfying examination of what keeps the Doctor going. The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit is a wonderfully atmospheric adventure that keeps you on the edge of your seat, delivering drama and scares in equal measure. Number 4, Utopia, The Sound of Drums, and Last of the Time Lords.
You can't end like this. You and me, all the things we've done. Axons, remember the Axons? And the Daleks. We're the only two left. There's no one else. Regenerate!
How about that? I win.
To be entirely honest, this story probably doesn't deserve to be up this high. But it holds a very special place in my heart, and that's because this trilogy of episodes served as my introduction to Doctor Who. Now, I'd seen bits and pieces here and there, but it was with this story that my interest really took hold, and I first sat down to watch a full episode. And I absolutely loved it. The glimpses of previous adventures, the reignited rivalry with an old foe, the world-ending stakes, the presence of paradoxes, this story opened my eyes to everything Doctor Who could be, and I couldn't wait to see more. So yes, this story's always a nostalgic one for me to revisit, and that does give it an advantage. But nostalgia is only part of the equation, because regardless of what you might think of the resolution or RTD's more manic take on the Master, I think there's still a lot to love. Opening with the incredibly atmospheric Utopia, we're introduced to a society on the brink of extinction. The promise of Utopia, their last hope is survival. It's a simple but frightening prospect, and it's here we're introduced to Professor Yana, architect of humanity's survival. Derek Jacobi is simply superb as the kindly old man whose brilliance rivals even the Doctor's. But even better is the moment of revelation, as Yana is stripped away to reveal the Master. Perhaps the greatest twist reveal in the show's history. And short-lived though it is, Jacobi is just as magnificent with the quiet menace and seething malice of the Master as he was with Yana. It's a real shame his incarnation couldn't stick around, as, especially with his subsequent turn on audio, he's quickly become one of my favorite incarnations of the character. But it's not just Jacobi that makes this reveal such a success, but the Doctor's reaction. The sheer terror at who the Time Lord might be is immensely unsettling, with the Doctor completely losing his cool. And even if you don't know who the Master is, it's immediately apparent he's bad news. I also love that this is a story where the Master actually wins. When the Doctor, Martha, and Jack do make it back to the present, he's already ingrained himself as Prime Minister, and ultimately succeeds in seizing control and becoming Master of Earth. Obviously, this doesn't stick, and the majority of his reign is reversed, but I think this generally works because for everyone in the eye of the storm, they do still remember, even if the rest of the world can't. There are consequences, not just emotional for the things that the Master put them through, but for the Master himself, who, in a fantastic conclusion to his reign of terror, is shot and refuses to regenerate purely despite the Doctor, the only person willing to forgive him after all the atrocities he's committed. It's the perfect summation of their relationship, actually. The Master is a monster, yet the Doctor mourns him anyways. I also love this story's usage of Jack and Martha. With Jack, we really dig into the consequences of his last appearance in Doctor Who, and Martha gets the opportunity to take charge and save the day herself by traveling the Earth and encouraging people to rise up against the Master in the only way he can't prevent, by thinking. Okay, it's a bit over the top that this basically gives the Doctor superpowers, but on the whole, I think using the Master's own system of mind control against him is really clever, and I'm willing to forgive the execution. Look, I could probably talk on and on about this story. It's a big story, and there's a lot I haven't touched on. But for fear of this going on too long, I'll leave it here. Long story short, I think this story is masterful. And thank you for introducing me to this wonderful show. Number 3, Human Nature and the Family of Blood.
I'm John Smith. That's all I want to be, John Smith. With his life, and his job, and his love. Why can't I be John Smith? Isn't he a good man?
Yes, he is.
Why can't I stay?
But we need the Doctor.
What am I then? Nothing. I'm just a story.
I've always liked the idea of adapting expanded media for TV, and while we've had loose adaptations before, such as Dalek, Human Nature and the Family of Blood is a much more straightforward affair, and whilst I haven't read the original novel, if it's even half as good as the TV version, it's gotta be fantastic. In this case, the 10th Doctor and Martha are on the run from the Family of Blood, beings that want to steal a Time Lord's body so that they can live forever. This results in one of the most fantastic premises the show has ever explored. What if the Doctor became human? And indeed, for the majority of the runtime, David Tennant isn't playing the Doctor. He's playing John Smith, a schoolteacher from 1913 whose adventures as the Doctor only exist in his dreams. What this story does best is its examination of the moral dilemma that arises when the family locate him and Martha. As she does her best to save him, John Smith struggles with the discovery that he's a falsehood, a construct. David Tennant gives an outstanding performance as a man not ready to say goodbye to his humanity, and what it means to give up his life and newfound love for the lives of others. As Jones says, the Doctor chose to change, but John Smith chose to die. It's a hauntingly beautiful character study of what makes us human, and how the Doctor, despite appearances, still doesn't fully understand us. What's more, the family make for a superb adversary. Their ethereal nature and contempt for human life is a terrifying combination, and each of their human forms are given suitably unnerving performances. Harry Lloyd's portrayal of Son of Mine is a particular standout, and his narration as the Doctor enacts his punishment, ensuring that they will indeed live forever, is chilling. It's an incredibly unique story that shines a brand new light on an age-old character, one that will stick with me for all of eternity. Number 2, Midnight.
Now listen, all of you, for all we know, that's a brand new life form over there, and if it's come inside to discover us, then what's it found? This little bunch of humans. What do you amount to? Murder? Because this is where you decide. You decide who you are. Could you actually murder her? Any of you? Really? Or are you better than that?
I'd do it.
So would I.
Amy, I think we should.
I have a bit of a complicated history with Midnight. Truth be told, when I first saw it as a kid, I really wasn't a fan. I thought it was one of the most boring episodes of the show I'd seen up to that point. But with every subsequent rewatch, it's gone up that bit more in my estimations. Until now, it's not just one of my favorite 10th Doctor stories, but in my top 10 Doctor Who stories of all time. Seriously, this story is a masterclass in character drama. It's very dialogue heavy, probably why I didn't appreciate it as much when I was younger, but it's a fantastic examination of human nature and how we react under pressure. It's a brilliant move to have practically the entire story within a space tour bus, with the outside world an extremely deadly environment with no opportunity for escape, and the monster being something completely inexplicable. No one knows how it could survive on the planet's surface, exactly what it's capable of, or even what it wants. The ultimate in reaping terror from the unknown. It's also great to start off the story in a genuinely calm and peaceful manner, with the first chunk of the episode featuring the Doctor socializing and making small talk with everyone on board, making the growing hysteria and distrust amongst them that much more effective as the creature invades. Speaking of, the creature itself is that kind of perfect twisting of the ordinary. Having possessed one of the passengers, it begins by repeating everything everyone says, before eventually catching up and talking in unison, latching on to the Doctor and stealing his voice, leaving him utterly helpless. It's extremely unsettling, and it's perhaps the closest the Doctor has ever come to flat out losing, as he not only has to figure out what the creature's doing and how to stop it, but also fight against everyone else on board. Russell T Davies cleverly uses the aspects of the Doctor that the plot often shoves aside for convenience sake. The fact that he doesn't use a genuine name, how he pops up out of nowhere, the way he swiftly takes command, and turns it against him, with all these aspects raising suspicion within the rest of the passengers. And as they become more desperate, some of them prematurely decide that throwing the Doctor out to die is the best course of action. And indeed, after the creature takes hold of the Doctor, most of them are convinced that it resides within him, and it's only the quick thinking and bravery of the stewardess that saves his life, sacrificing herself to get rid of the creature. It's an utterly astounding thrill ride that takes you through the full gamut of emotions. Look, I can understand why 10-year-old me wasn't a fan. But 10-year-old me was wrong, and boy am I glad that I've come to realize it. Midnight is simply an incredible piece of television. Full stop. And before we reach my number 1 10th Doctor story, let's take a quick look at some honorable mentions which very nearly made the cut. The End of Time, Death and the Queen, Voyage of the Damned, The Last Line, The Shattered Hourglass. Number 1, The Waters of Mars.
You're taking action 1. There are 4 more standard action procedures, and action 5 is
Detonation.
the final option. Today, on the 21st of November 2059, Captain Brooke activates that device, taking the base and all her crew members with her. No one ever knows why.
The Waters of Mars does something that Doctor Who could frequently take advantage of, but rarely does, treating the future like history. The Doctor is a time traveler, someone who has no home time, but especially in the new series, you don't really get that vibe. The present day is treated, well, like the present day. But here, with the Doctor traveling all on his own, he accidentally stumbles upon a vital moment in future history. The destruction of Bowie Base 1 and all its crew, the very first humans on Mars, and no one ever knew why it happened. It's a fantastic hook. I love the Doctor's excitement at meeting the crew and his subsequent realization that he's arrived on the day of all their deaths, knowing that, as established history, he can't do anything to save them. There's a sense of dread even before the monsters arrive. And can I just say what a brilliant concept the Flood is? Water as a means of infection and possession. We need it to survive, but in an instant that vital resource is taken away, with even a single drop proving deadly. And as the Doctor says, water's patient. Over time, water always wins. The Waters of Mars does a fantastic job of gradually upping the stakes, picking off the crew members one by one, and making the situation more and more dire. Even when there's hope of escape, the Doctor knows it's impossible. And man, does that make for some compelling drama. Adelaide and the Doctor's conversation in the airlock about how the Doctor knows their fates but is powerless to change it, and Adelaide struggling to come to terms with that, is haunting, as is the Doctor helplessly walking away as he hears their terrified screams and shouts. It's breathtakingly effective. And so is the Doctor's decision to abandon all the rules and save the lives he can, despite the consequences. This is the 10th Doctor at his most conceited and arrogant. With the Time Lords gone, he finally decides that the laws of time are his to control, and it's utterly terrifying. Any other time, you would be glad the Doctor's saving lives, because of course, that's what the Doctor does. But it's an incredible move to flip that on its head and make the Doctor the bad guy for it. Not only changing established history, and not in the usual sense, as it's made very clear that this is a vital event, but in changing his motivations. He's not doing it out of selflessness or heroism, but because he can, to prove that he can take control of time and do whatever he wants. Which leads us to the gut punch of an ending, where Adelaide kills herself anyway, knowing that her death is necessary for the future of all humankind. Spine-chilling monsters, fantastic characters, heart-wrenching drama. If anything, I'd be underselling The Waters of Mars by calling it a masterpiece. This isn't just my favorite 10th Doctor story, it's my favorite Doctor Who story of all time. But what do you think? Were there any surprise inclusions? Did I leave out your top choice? Let me know what your favorite 10th Doctor stories are down in the comments below. And with that, Merganman4 over and out, and I'll see you all next week with my top 10 11th Doctor stories.